Public transport and ferries. Public transport between cities is dominated by airlines, coaches, and intercity rail. High-speed rail networks are being developed in many parts of the world. Most public transport systems run along fixed routes with set embarkation-disembarkation points to a pre-arranged timetable, with the most frequent services running to a headway. However, most public transport trips include other modes of travel, such as passengers walking or catching bus services to access train stations. Share taxis offer on-demand services in many parts of the world, which may compete with fixed public transport lines, or complement them, by bringing passengers to interchanges. Paratransit is sometimes used in areas of low demand and for people who need a door-to-door service. Urban public transit differs distinctly among Asia, North America, and Europe. In Asia, profit-driven, privately owned and publicly traded mass transit and real estate conglomerates predominantly operate public transit systems. In North America, municipal transit authorities most commonly run mass transit operations. In Europe, both state-owned and private companies predominantly operate mass transit systems. Public transport services can be profit-driven by use of pay-by-the-distance fares or funded by government subsidies, in which flat-rate fares are charged to each passenger. Services can be fully profitable through high usership numbers and high fare box recovery ratios, or can be regulated and possibly subsidized from local or national tax revenue. Fully subsidized, free-of-charge services operate in some towns and cities. For geographical, historical and economic reasons, differences exist internationally regarding use and extent of public transport. While countries in the Old World tend to have extensive and frequent systems serving their old and dense cities, many cities of the New World have more sprawl and much less comprehensive public transport. The International Association of Public Transport is the international network for public transport authorities and operators, policy decision makers, scientific institutes and the public transport supply and service industry. It has 3,400 members from 92 countries from all over the globe. Conveyances designed for public hire are as old as the first ferries. And the earliest public transport was water transport. On land people walked or rode an animal. Ferries appear in Greek mythology. Corpses in ancient Greece were buried with a coin underneath their tongue to pay the ferryman Charon to take them to Hades. Some historical forms of public transport include the stagecoach, traveling a fixed route between coaching inns, and the horse-drawn boat carrying paying passengers, which was a feature of European canals from their 17th century origins. The canal itself as a form of infrastructure dates back to antiquity. Ancient Egyptians certainly used a canal for freight transportation to bypass the Aswan Cataract, and the Chinese also built canals for water transportation as far back as the Warring States period, which began in the 5th century BCE. Whether or not those canals were used for higher public transport remains unknown. The Grand Canal in China served primarily for shipping grain. The omnibus, the first organized public transit system within a city, appears to have originated in Paris, France, in 1662, although the service in question, Carrosses à Cinq sols, failed a few months after its founder, Blaise Pascal, died in August 1662. Omnibuses are next known to have appeared in Nantes, France, in 1826. The omnibus was introduced to London in July 1829. The first passenger horse-drawn railway opened in 1806. It ran between Swansea and Mumbles in southwest Wales in the United Kingdom. In 1825, George Stephenson built the locomotion for the Stockton and Darlington Railway in northeast England, the first public steam railway in the world. The first successful electric streetcar was built for 12 miles of track for the Union Passenger Railway in Richmond, Virginia in 1888. Electric streetcars could carry heavier passenger loads than predecessors, which reduced fares and stimulated greater transit use. 2 years after the Richmond success, over 32,000 electric streetcars were operating in America. Electric streetcars also paved the way for the first subway system in America. Before electric streetcars, steam-powered subways were considered. However, most people believed that riders would avoid the smoke-filled subway tunnels from the steam engines. In 1894, Boston built the first subway in the United States, an electric streetcar line in a 1.5-mile tunnel under Tremont Street's retail district. Other cities such as New York quickly followed, constructing hundreds of miles of subway in the following decades. 7 criteria measure the usability of different types of public transport and its overall appeal. The criteria are speed, comfort, safety, cost, proximity, timeliness,